Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Thursday, the 7th of December. My apologies if this is feels a little bit rushed because it's way past my bedtime, and I just realized I forgot to record Thursday's video. It's Wednesday night, so here we go. I've been thinking a lot in the last couple of days about Christmas and what it means and how different it can be for different people at different times in their life. We 2 nights ago in Vermilion, we hosted the Vermilion Ministerial Blue Christmas service, and it was a really powerful evening, I think, because it was an opportunity for people who maybe find Christmas a little bit more difficult, or the season leading up to it, the Advent season. It's so hectic and there's so much going on that for some people it's simply because it's hectic that Christmas is difficult. We have this idea, this TV idea that we have to have this wonderful, perfect, brilliant day where the turkey is basted and cooked exactly the right way, and the stuffing isn't too dry, it's not too wet, and the desserts have to be absolutely scrumptious and everybody's favorite, and everything has to be set on the table at exactly the right time and hot at the same time. And the reality is usually nothing like it. Somebody doesn't like something, or the Jello mold got left in the fridge, or the turkey was left too close to the counter, and the dog grabbed part of it. There's always something that sort of goes sideways. And for those people who are really fixated on it, everything has to be perfect. That can make a really miserable day. For some people, Christmas is hard because it might be the first Christmas after someone they love has died, or maybe it's a Christmas after a diagnosis. Last year, my husband, had been diagnosed with congestive heart failure in late September, and by the time we got to Christmas, he was so exhausted. We had a friend come over for dinner, and partway through the meal, Rob looked kind of gray and sort of said, "I think I have to go now." And I drove our friend back to Vermilion. It took me about an hour and a half to get back, and the whole time I was worried that something might have happened to Rob while I was gone. He wasn't answering his phone when I called, and it was a worrisome day. And it was a tough Christmas. I was joyous that he was okay, that he was able to come home from the hospital in October, and we were sort of hoping he was on the mend. But it was a really different kind of Christmas. This year, Christmas is very different. We aren't going to celebrate like we normally would. Part of it, I think, for me, is because we don't have Dude this year. He loved Christmas and his stocking and all the toys that he left alone. He didn't paw away at them, but he always kind of sniffed around looking for one for himself. And it's hard that way. It's also a year of transition, that Rob and I are moving into a new place where I'm going to literally be moving to a new place, and he won't be going with me, at least for a while, maybe not for a long while. So all of the things that we have to prepare, making us think about Christmas in a different way. But the evening on Tuesday evening when we had our Blue Christmas service, it was really powerful for me because we invited people to write prayers on pieces of paper and put them in a basket, and then light a candle and take another lit candle with them to go home. And the idea with the prayers is that the clergy who were present would take those prayers, we would share them up, and then each of us would have prayers that we would take, and then those prayers that people had written, we would pray them every day until Christmas. And and it's a privilege and an honor for me to do that, because it helps other people to know that they don't carry their prayers by themselves. The things that are hard at this Christmas season, they they're being carried with someone else, even if they don't know who. Well, and we don't know who. They were anonymous prayers for the most part. But the opportunity for us to be able to reach out to others in solidarity and in community and say, you may not know who is doing it, but someone else is walking beside you through this Advent season. And we're praying those prayers with you right up until Christmas Day, so you're not alone. Sharing that time is important. Sharing this season of Advent as we walk forward is important. And I think part of it for me is recognizing that it isn't all fun. It's not all joy and peace and glory and happy Christmas carols. Some of our Christmas carols are hard, and they need to be. Like In the Bleak Midwinter, that might be a really, British or English or Canadian song, I'm not sure, but it's it's a it's a lonely tune. The Huron Carol, again, is a very, very, the tune itself is kind of in a minor key, and it's very contemplative. Silent Night, Away in a Manger, O Little Town of Bethlehem. These are not Joy to the World, fa la 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 songs. They are songs, I think, carols that invite us to settle, invite us to just be, not be rushing around like Jingle Bells or like Frosty the Snowman, all those things that have us in the mood for Christmas, and we're running around buying gifts and making cookies and doing Christmas cards, which I still haven't done yet. But those other Christmas carols that say to us, it's okay to be, it's okay to just be gentle. I remember 24 years ago today, um, it was December 7th, 1999. I was living in Stratford and I was sick as a dog. I had a fever well over 101. And I remember thinking to myself, I hope I remember this night because it was the night I was ordained a priest. And on that night, our preacher, the Venerable John Spencer, the Archdeacon, was our preacher. And he gave each and every one of us who were ordained a plaque, a bronze plaque that says, "So what?" And he was reminding us that when we preach, we're to put these in our pulpits, and when we preach, we are to remember that our message has to answer this question. If it doesn't answer the question, so what? Then it's not worth preaching. And that night it was snowy and blustery, and I had kids from the very first youth youth members from the very first Ask and Imagine of 1999 who came from four of them who came from some pretty distant places to show up to celebrate with me on my the night of my ordination. um, it was snowy and blustery, and it was my sister wasn't able to make it from Windsor because of the snow, and she wouldn't have been able to get back to get to school the next day. She was a teacher. I remember thinking, this church is packed with people and it's warm and the candles are flickering, and there's an incredible sense of peace, while outside there's a snowstorm, while outside there are people who are rushing to get home and to places, but in here we're calm, we're gentle, we're surrounded by love and God's peace. And I remember thinking to myself, I was very, very tired, and I think I was getting a little dramatic in my head, that if I died tonight, I would have made it to this place where I had been ordained a priest and surrounded by people I loved and who loved me. And I remember thinking, this is what Christmas is about, this season of Advent, preparing for Christmas, the anticipation. This is what it's about. It's not about the perfect turkey. It's not about the gifts under the tree. It's not about the perfect tree. It's about the people, and it's about the relationships, and it's about how we're feeling together. And part of that for me was overwhelmed that evening after the service was over and I was sick as a dog. Because these young people had come from so far away, I took them out. We went to Kelsey's restaurant and we had appetizers. And then I drove one of them 45 minutes home with everybody packed in my car, and then drove them all back to town and dropped them off at the places where they're staying. I didn't get home until almost 2 in the morning. I was exhausted. But it was that kind of exhaustion where you feel like, you know what, it's all worth it. The Blue Christmas service is a lot of work to put together. But when you see the looks on people's faces, when they realize that they have been given permission to feel what they're feeling, to feel overwhelmed and anxiety and anxious, to feel sad because someone they love couldn't be with them, or they can't go and be with the people they love. For those people who are struggling and thinking, how am I going to pay for Christmas presents, or what am I going to do, to have that moment or that few moments to sit and listen to music, to light candles, to offer a prayer, to know that you're not alone. That's incredibly important. And so for me, the so what on Tuesday evening for our Christmas or Blue Christmas service, the so what was that I had the opportunity with all of the people who participated, lay people and pastors, for all of us who shared in leading the worship. Our so what, I believe, was that we gave and created and carved out a space for people to just be honest about how they're feeling about Christmas, about how they're feeling in being overwhelmed or filled with grief or filled with anxiety or fear. We are in a season of anticipation and preparation for the coming of Jesus Christ. Yes, in the Christian church, Advent is the preparation for the second coming of Christ, the anticipation of it. But at the same time, we also think about and enter back into that first coming when the baby was born. And I think we need to take some time, especially today as I remember my my ordination and what it meant to me and what it is continues to mean to me 24 years later, that it isn't about the hype. It's not about the great wonders that Jesus did for the world and all the miracles. It was about that, but it was also about this child born in a manger to a mother who was young and tired and probably just wanted to put her feet up and wouldn't want for her baby to be laid in hay and the smells of a barn. And yet she did so with grace. Jesus came into the world not as a perfect human being, although that's what we tend to think. But he came into the world as a human being. And he didn't come in the Hilton or a fancy hospital. He came into the world in a place in which he really could begin to understand what it's like to be the one who wonders, will Christmas be a joyous time? His entry into the world wasn't one of great fanfare. It was one of a little thing happened. And sometimes for Christmas, recognizing that maybe it's just a little thing is okay. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be a perfect turkey or the best presents or having everybody gathered around your table. Sometimes it's simply being able to sit down and say, "Thank you, God, for this day. Thank you for allowing me to be sad in a world that says I have to be happy. Thank you for allowing me to find a little bit of peace separate from the hectic. Thank you for allowing me to be here this day." So I ask you, what is your so what? What is it that you're going to remember as you prepare for Christmas? Give yourself permission to answer it in whatever way is honest for you. And don't worry. Don't worry about what the answer might be because no one is going to judge you. Have a great day. God bless. And I will see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.